IPMNation.com.
Live from the Outpost Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All-Natural Being. Warning, All-Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good evening. We got the last little touches going on here. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to All Natural Being. You know, it can't always be this much of a crapshoot. I gotta tell you, just don't know how that works. Good evening, and thank you so much for stopping by, hanging out with us. I'm really looking forward to tonight's show as well. But let me first say welcome. And thank you for stopping by what is now the 331st episode of the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com. Don't know why that is. All Natural Being, the gong heard round the world, broadcast as it happens, I'm led to believe, even though it looks like we're getting spotty internet. Broadcast as it happens, thanks to our friends at Wirecast, right here on IPMNation.com, and now multicast live on Facebook, YouTube, over at the allnaturalbeing.com, and Brian Brawdy, the new app. But however you come to hang with us, we're always pumped to have you with us live from the Transitional Radio Uplink here in Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you know, the usual suspects. Greetings wherever you are here in the Garden of the Mortals. And what a gig it is. I say it all the time, winning or whining. It's up to you and me, because life, it's our labyrinth. Our shot at running the table as we see fit. The hell with your critics. Time to ignore them and own once and for all your primal scream. Not to place it on the back burner, front and center, on the tip of your lips, right where it belongs. That's why we're here, ready to be your friendly force, your blue force, always putting your heart's highest priority top of the list, reinstalling and reinstating the true wit and wisdom, the wallop of your inner whisper, rebooting your robust, finding your ferocious, all in time to outbrutal the brutal. That is the cut and shuffle that fate can deal you on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold once and for all. But before we hit it this evening, hello to my friends here in the United States and Canada, Mexico, the UK, my dear friends in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Nigeria, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Belgium, Israel, Sweden, Egypt, South Africa, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands, Colombia, Greece, Ireland, Peru, Poland, to those joining us from all over the globe. It really is great to have you here and to be a part of our team, of our family, of our tribe. I truly am fired up to be driving your bandwagon, to be your virtual hitchhiker if you're out and about on the go this evening. But to always, however you get here, I'm ready to be your biggest fan, to be avidly you. But before we jump into tonight's show, let me ask you, why would you let anyone hijack your cognition, play you like a sock puppet? Because the days of needlessly torturing ourselves by being someone else's tool, they're over. The moment you and I decide to take life into our own hands. So what are we waiting for? Here's our opportunity to mortal up. What do you say? Let's go kicking some doors. And tonight, speaking of kicking in doors, we're kicking around some thoughts. As I like to put it, thinking at the tip of the spear kind of stuff. About a mindset I've always called never be owned. Never be owned by your fears and the fight or flight chemicals they produce. They work for you. You don't work for them. They got it all turned around. Never be owned by your hopes and your goals, your bucket lists, the perpetual angst of habitual binge thinking. Come what may, you're built to own the day. Never be owned by the mashugana of the marketplace, the witless whim of your critics, and the spew of their status quo, their negative opinion of your positive self-image. We don't need it. Never be owned by worry, caused by either the micro or the macro concerns in your life. You are stronger than your worst heartache. Never be owned, a casualty of another's demented cognition, misery looking for a partner, a sitting target or a scapegoat for their personal softening of the brain. Their mania has no place in your mind. Always remember, never be owned by a slave mentality where your mind is played like a marionette. Live free to greet your time here, as I say, in the garden of the mortals, with all the grit that glues you together. Live free to dive the rabbit hole at hand, to say, oh, hell yes, to the labyrinth of life. Live so that the abyss fears you staring into it. Nietzsche had it backwards. Your circumstances don't own you, you own them. Every event that unfolds is fortuitous to a free mind finely honed. You decide, victim or victor. You alone discern how it bounces or crumbles. They're your balls. They're your cookies. You own your space. It doesn't own you. So that's why I'd like to talk a little bit about tonight, although it is Wednesdays. It's Lee Words Wednesdays. Lee will be joining us. But never be owned. And we do it. We allow it to happen to us, both inside and outside. Right? We're owned by our own thoughts. We're owned. Let me get over here in the thread. We're owned. Sometimes, right? We're at our own mercy. But never be owned means you're not going to do that anymore. You're not going to be around for someone else to take advantage of you. I'm going to say hi to Patricia and Heather. Thank you so very much. John, good evening. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Patricia, hello. Wayne, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the help today. We got some really cool things. That, like I said, I say all the time, you're freezing up on me. Well, Candace, I'm really sorry. I don't know what the freezing up is all about. It says that we're given a signal, and I'm here on the phone, so it still must be coming out at this end, but I apologize. Rita, hello. Nice to see you. I've been thinking about you for the last 24 hours. I'm glad that you're back in the New York, back in the Ecuador groove. I'm glad to hear, and I hope everything went really smoothly. Yep, you are cutting out a bit. All right, well, let's just see where it goes. Let me just see. That is fabulous. Don't let anyone or anything rule your life. Never. Absolutely. Thank you, Rita. Damn straight. I would agree. Also, hello to Heather. Thank you very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. And that's all we're going to talk about this evening until Lee Words Wednesdays, which this is pretty cool. If you're here in the thread and you're like, oh, you know what? I'd like to bring my own bold. I'd like to get to the point where I can go, yeah, I want to launch. I want to unleash my legendary. I want to make it. Well, Lee is going to come on this evening again for Lee Words Wednesdays. And you might go, hey, I'm thinking about a particular concept. Could you guys help me write a tagline? Could you guys help me come up with, maybe like a thesis sentence, if you remember those from high school or college? And could you come up with a little bit of sizzle? Like I like to say all the time, you bring the steak, we'll figure out the sizzle. Give us 20 minutes, we'll give you a tagline. So Lee will be calling us here at about 1:15 the hour, maybe a little later, and we'll be able to do that for someone right here in the thread. But we're talking about not just copywriting, although Sales Copy Academy, that's what Lee is all about. And the good people at Sales Copy Academy, thank them again. Thank you again, guys and girls, for sponsoring the clocks here at All Natural Being. But what they're really good at is building empathy, throwing yourself into the mix, throwing yourself into the blender. And what comes out of it is a true understanding. Thank you, Rita. The stream is good now? Okay. Of course, right? When I say don't be owned, and I mean don't be owned by like an internet company that can't stream. Can't stream a good signal. You get where I'm going with that. But the thing about the copywriting is that you have to immerse yourself in what's going on in that particular moment and all of time. I call it magnify the moment, as you know. And that's why I'm so fired up to have a chance to learn every Wednesday nights from Lee and the good people at Sales Copy Academy, is that it's really it's creative living, right? To throw yourself into the mix of the moment and say, okay, great. Here's what's coming out. Here's what I've uncovered. Here's what I've discovered. Here's what I've unleashed. And he'll be here to talk to us about that. And then, like I say, if there's a particular company you're thinking or an idea that you want, maybe a resume, greeting card, something that you want to put together, Lee has very graciously agreed to come on. And like I said, the tagline will be, you give us 20 minutes, we'll give you a tagline. So we'll be working with Lee here in just a little bit. But until we do, I'd like to return to this concept of never be owned, right? Living your life a little more kick-ass than kumbaya. Never be owned. Now, it's easy to say, people say, oh, that's a very militant message. But it's not necessarily talking about never being owned by people outside of you. It's just as important that we realize that we never be owned by our own negative thoughts, by our own pessimism, by our own short-sightedness, by our own deafness. Never be owned by a negative self-opinion. And I know you think, oh, never be owned. That's kind of catchy. I like that, talking about taglines and this and that. But I've found, in working on this concept, that it's a great way in the moment, just when you think you're about ready, right? 5 kids, that'll do it to you. 3 of them a lot younger, that'll definitely do it to you. Or let's just say road rage or something else goes down. And just when you feel that little tweaking, where you're about to let someone else hijack your mind, you're about to let someone else play you like the sock puppet I talk about every night. In that particular moment, you can say to yourself, never be owned. I'm not going to let this individual, I'm not going to let this situation derail my peace of mind. I'm not going to let it distract me from the labyrinth at hand. Never be owned. So in a way, it's kind of like the BEST acronym. When I talk about you're confronted by something, instead of going all fight or flight, where you go, right? BEST, breathe in, exhale, right? Taking a deep breath, exhale your name so you remember who and where you are. Scan, sift your situation, and then take action. Well, that's the BEST acronym that I've been talking about literally for years, maybe 10, 15 years now. But in addition to that one, never be owned. I've found it really powerful in helping, as I said, to interrupt those fight or flight chemicals. Those chemicals work for you. You don't work for them. So never be owned is a perfect mantra, if you will. I mean, the most perfect mantra is just thank you, right? The perfect mantra of just gratitude. But the second most perfect mantra is never be owned. Just when you feel yourself ready to be hijacked. Because really, what's a hijacking? It's a distraction. It's taking you away from putting your heart's highest priority top of the list. I don't know about you. I got a limited bandwidth. And every time that I'm focused on something, thank you, Heather, very much. Heather says love it. Every time I'm focused, every time I'm busy being owned by another situation, by another happenstance, every time I subject my wherewithal to another happenstance, it's taking away from the bandwidth that allows me to put my heart's highest priority top of the list. So I guess I would say or ask, why do we do that to ourselves? Never be owned. Never be owned by that binge thinking, right? The perpetual angst, as I said, of binge thinking. the mashugana of the marketplace, never be owned. So you get to that point where you go, no, I'm just not going to take it anymore. Never be owned. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick call. Good evening. Welcome to All Natural Being. Who's this?
Hey, this is Lee Rowley.
Hey, Lee. How are you, Mr. Rowley?
Well, I'll tell you, today I am victorious and I am grateful.
Oh,
How's
good.
that?
Those are two very good. Well, here's the thing I know about you. Even if other people looking at you would go, I don't know how victorious that was, you'd still be grateful for the lesson. That, my friend, I absolutely know about you. But victorious and grateful. I want to hear all about it. And I have some breaking news that I want to share with you as well. But you go first. Why victorious and grateful? Why is it? Why are those the two words that pop to your mind this evening?
Well, victorious because, as we discussed earlier, it hasn't exactly been the most stellar of days. There are days that are trash fires. There are days that are dumpster fires. And then there are days that are dirty diaper dumpster fires. This didn't quite go that far, but there may have been a few wet wipes that went up in flames somewhere along the way. But I got through it.
Okay.
I took my lumps. I'm still smiling.
Yep.
And I'm grateful because right now I'm hanging out with some of my favorite people that I've ever had a chance to get to talk to, especially in this format. So,
well, thank you, my friend, very much. I appreciate that. Well, we're grateful to have you. Rita says, good evening, Lee. Wayne says, good evening, Lee. Candace says, hey, Lee.
Hey, everybody.
So I tell you, I've a little bit of something that I wanted to share with you. And then I want to get into our whole concept of Sales Copy Academy and Copy That Speaks, and give us 20 minutes. We'll give you a tagline. But I found out something very, very interesting yesterday.
Okay.
And you know me, there's no gray area with me. But I found out, I've believed all along that what gave me the brain tumor, you may know this, Lee, but it was because I'm always talking on a cell phone. And there are increased reports from all over the place that say, holding that cell phone, that Wi-Fi is not good for you. That, and I happen to get this golf ball right behind my ear, and it's the ear that I hold my cell phone to. Good evening, Janile. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. It's nice to see you. So I'm doing some reports, and as you know, Lee, and I think I've mentioned here in the thread, it's been a tough week in terms of, too much fluid, not enough fluid, too much fluid, not enough fluid. And my poor shunt's working overtime to try to figure out how to regulate, right, what everyone else takes for granted. My little shunt, cyborg that I am, my little shunt, like the little train that could, right? It has to work overtime to figure out what's going on with this spinal fluid. We'll come to find out that there was a particular shunt that I have implanted. There was a recall. Now, it's entirely possible that the recall was before my surgery date. So my particular lot number, they're still working on it now to figure it out, but it may not have been subject to the recall. But some of the shunts in this family, they're called VP shunts. Some of the shunts in this family have been recalled. So I started doing a little bit of research on it late last night and this morning. And I said, Lee, this can't be a cure. You can't have to go through life with these kind of headaches. I'd have been better off dealing with the tumor. Come to find out that because my shunt is designed, so they have, I call it a hockey puck. It's like a can of Skull, right? It's a little top that they can put on, and it's a magnet. Well, they take this magnet, and they're able to turn it, and it adjusts, Lee, the valve to decide how much spinal fluid is coming in or coming out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, come to find out, there's evidence now that cell phones and certain headphones are actually strong enough magnets to be affecting my shunt.
Oh, wow.
Candace says, BB,
okay.
Something I noticed when we did the 24 hours, you were up, no headaches. I know that, Candace, and I'm very pleased with that. I have to tell you, throughout that 24-hour marathon, Candace was with me late in the morning, as was Lee, late in the morning, no headaches. But guess what I wasn't doing for 24 hours, Lee?
Well, you most likely were not on your phone.
I wasn't
correct?
on my phone. I wasn't talking on my phone. So I know you're thinking, oh, that's a long way to make a point. But let me just say this. Maybe there really is something. They first thought cigarettes were good for you. They first thought, I don't know. I don't know. Think of it, right? Whatever, right? And then we find out years later, oh, maybe that stuff wasn't. I can't imagine people put asbestos in to buildings and ships and this and that thinking, you know what? One day, I can't imagine they crafted Roundup going, oh, yeah, one day we're going to lose $100 billion in court because this stuff is toxic, right? I can't imagine, right? I think people have the best intentions and they kind of come to these things. So what if the way you hold your cell phone is leaving you susceptible to a brain tumor? Now, you could say, well, Brad, that's just the shunt talking. Fair enough. It could very well be. Maybe, right? Maybe it didn't happen that way. But we're believing now that the effects of holding the phone and talking, and I try, but here's this thing: I have the little the headphones, but now they're saying, Lee, that I'm going to have to start researching to see what the magnets are like in these little headphones. Am I putting it too close to the shunt? Candace says, laying on your head is what I thought. Well, you know what, Candace, you'll find that if I lay horizontal for more than 6 hours, I never have to set an alarm. People go, oh, well, why are you doing the early morning meme? Because after 6 hours of sleep, Lee, the headaches are so brutal. When I came up with the line, you got to out-brutal the brutal, that was some truth in advertising.
I would imagine.
So if I stay lying flat for more than 6 hours, Headacheville. And that's what wakes me up. So then I go, okay, it's just if I lie down too much. And then I'll try getting through a day with only 6 hours of sleep, especially recovering from 3 brain surgeries. That didn't work well for the kid, right? So I'm falling asleep in chairs. I'm trying to take naps whenever I can. But now we begin to believe that it's the magnets in the phone. Magnets in, as Rita just says, yes, wow, it makes sense, though. Your headset is a culprit, too. Well, believe me, Rita, that's what Ashley's like. She goes, okay, well, that headset that you wear, and then here's what I thought. I had this headset in for 24 hours, not a headache. So I don't think it's this particular headset that I'm wearing, although I'd abandon it in a second if I thought it were. I think having my phone. So here's the big drum roll. I'm giving my phone up, Lee. I spent the day running around without my smartphone. And
how did it feel?
Liberating. I felt like I lost 10 pounds. It just, right? Because I wasn't looking down. Oh, who's trying to get a hold of me? Who's trying to get a hold of me? So for my friends, I'm thinking maybe I'll get like a little pager or something that I can wear on my hip. Back to the law enforcement days, right? Where if someone really needs me, they can page me. But I abandoned it today, and I feel pretty good. Not just because of the shunt, right? Because who knows if there's a correlation there. But I feel great because I don't feel like I have a dog collar on. I don't feel like I have a choke chain. I don't feel like I'm tethered, right? That I have an invisible fence that keeps me within certain parameters. So I'm tickled to death to be giving up my smartphone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, during that time, did you feel like you were missing out on anything?
Can I be honest?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a holler and hang out with you while I was running around.
Okay, fair enough.
Right? So then, yeah, you know what I mean? So other than I found out that I'm like a phoneaholic, right? If I'm going from A to B, then I go, oh, well, then I can make some calls. I can do some this. I can do some that. And as you know, I don't like to drive, so I'm pretty much chauffeured around everywhere I go. So I go, oh, yeah, let me check some emails. Let me do this or that. But then, I found myself violating like my own principle of never be owned. I was owned by my cell phone. Heather says, I only use corded headphones when using the cell phone just because of these effects. Heather, I think you're a lot smarter than I am. And to have picked up on it before I did, I think that's very smart of you. As Rita says, it will not rule you anymore. And I think that's what I'm here to say. But just as importantly, Rita, is to suggest to other people, maybe it could be doing something to you as well. So stop putting the cell phone up near your ear. Do what Heather does and put the headsets in. Right? Because you don't want the headaches. As I said, Lee, I've never met a doctor that says, "Oh, Bri, you got a brain shunt. That tacks another 25 years on your life."
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not happening. So as a public service announcement for people that just seem hell-bent on always talking on their phone, I would say I'm going to start doing, well, one, you know me, there's no gray area, Lee, so I just got rid of it. I'm just like done. Maybe for emergencies, I'll leave it in a glove box or something. You know, and then fear just kicks in, right, Lee? And you're like, oh, well, what if this one wants to get a hold of you? Or what if that one wants to get a hold of you? Or,
sure.
You know, your mind, the binge thinking, just, you know, as I said earlier, the perpetual angst of binge thinking. Well, what if this one needs to get a hold of me, or that one needs to get a hold of me, or this happens or that happens? Yeah, I seem to survive before I ever had a cell phone.
Right. That's why I asked you why you were if you were missing anything, because honestly, I think that's the reason that we've so quickly become addicted to those things is simply because we always are afraid we're going to miss something. We're going to miss the status update. We're going to miss some incredible thing on Facebook that never really happens because all people are doing is just posting pictures of their puppies and complaining on either side of the political fence, whatever. But we're not really missing out on anything.
I didn't sense that I was today other than hanging out with my friends on the phone. I've realized to a certain degree, Lee, to be honest with you, I've realized how my good friends, in a way, are very meaningfully entertaining to me. Like, if I find myself doing something, I want to call Henry and go, oh, you will not believe what I just did. If I'm in like a really wild scenario or I have a thought that I think is pretty cool, I love calling you and going, hey, Lee, you're not going to believe this. So I realized that you know what I mean? That I dig that connection. I dig that sense of community with the people that mean the most to me. But I could still have that with an office phone, right? I could still have one of these kind of phones, right? With a cord and everything else. Except, so I used it all day. And
I think
I'm proud of it, actually. I'm excited about it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fantastic. No, I was going to say that the key word there was, you said meaningful conversations. And I think that so much of what we do on our phones every day is not meaningful. It's meaningless. It's mindless.
Sure.
It's just us running a script, essentially.
Sure.
We're just running on automation. And anytime you are living in that automated state, you're wasting away seconds, minutes, hours that you could actually be paying attention to your time here on this big mud ball.
And I would say to you, my friend, given some of the things that I've been up again of late, my time on this big mud ball is probably not what I first thought it was, right? Everyone says, oh, I'll live to be 100 years old. Yeah, I'm not going to get anywhere near 100. But I will tell you, the voices kick in. Well, what if I want to talk to my son, Parker? What if I want to, what if Paige calls? What if the kids, what if someone needs me? What if this or what if that?
Mm-hmm.
Rita says, good point, Lee. And she also says, which I thought was very insightful, of course, everyone is suffering from some effect from electronic devices, but these effects have not, and I think I'm probably going to say, she said, they're not manifest themselves of late.
Correct.
Because I'll tell you, the biggest electronic defect that I have right now is I hit see more and nothing comes up in the thread here. Heather says, that is why our house phones are for emergency phone calls. When I get tired of my phone, I'm assuming Heather says she turns it off, which is another thing, Lee, to talk to you about. And then I want to get into taking calls and give us 20 minutes. We'll give you a tagline.
Okay.
Rita says, how about paying attention to your kids? Well, I would agree with that. I saw an article the other day, Lee, that said that, and I don't know how they came to these numbers, but parents spend more time surfing the web than they do with their families.
I can believe that.
So for me today, I found out it just freed up all kinds of time. Good evening, Susan. Thank you so very much for watching us. Hope you're feeling better. Hope you're feeling way better. Hope you're recovering from your brain surgery earlier in the week. So that's my big news, Lee, is that I don't feel tethered by it. I'll have to figure out a way, right? Maybe there's a certain number of hours in a day. What do you think? Like I could say, I'll have office hours in the morning from here to here, or later in the day from here to here. But I have to tell you, not having a phone And it's turned off. It was really something else because I realized and then tonight as I wanted to talk about never be owned. I was owned by my phone, right? These are crafty guys and girls, these people that create these phones and updates. And Candace says to Rita, get the kids playing outside. I used to say all the time that my mom used the backyard to raise me. Right? Probably where I got my first case of skin cancer, right? Lee, from hanging out in the sun. Hi, Brian. Hi, Brian. Nice to hear your voice. Susan, it is nice to see you up and about as well. So, Lee, that's my big coming out story today. I'm doing away with the smartphone, and I hope that I have the courage, and I hope I have, it's like peanut M&Ms. Did you ever notice you'll give up peanut M&Ms until there's a bowl of them in your house? And then you just you absolutely have to have a peanut M&M. So, right? I'd never go to the store and buy myself a 2-pound bag. We'll leave a 2-pound bag open in a bowl. Oh, I'll get through that thing by the end of the day. They're M&M's peanuts, not M&M's M&M's. These got peanuts in them. They got to be good for you. Good evening, Kelly. And I think of Kelly all the time when I do it now, because ever since our 24-hour show, Kelly says, every time you put something in your mouth, it begins to attack your teeth. So it's a great little thing. I go, peanut M&M. I think of Kelly, and I go, I'm not going to do that. So thank you, Kelly, very much, just so you know. Thank you. All right, Lee, so let's get into it. Sorry for taking so long, but I wanted to share that with you, that during the middle of my trials and tribulations today of not having a tether of a cell phone, I thought, I'd like to call Lee. I think I'll hang out with Lee, see what he's doing. We got a call at 3 o'clock. I'll call, hang out with him. We'll tell a couple jokes. And then I realized, it's like having a broken leg. You finally get rid of the crutches, and you're like, you think I can walk? That's what it was like today. So I did think, Kelly says, just eat the whole bag. I know, right, Kelly? And then go and brush your teeth. I think that's what she's saying, Lee. See, Kelly, she's a professional, trained medical professional. Mm-hmm. Just eat the whole bag.
That is sound advice right there.
I knew I loved Kelly. Yes. Yeah, isn't it? I knew I loved Kelly. Just eat the whole bag, she says. For sure. All right.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about as you progress through your journey of freedom and being unchained from your phone.
I know, right? I hope I have the strength to pull it off. But like I said, and then, we talk about binge thinking, all those little things. What happens if someone needs me? What happens if I break down? What happens if I have a flat tire? Well, then I'm going to get out and change my flat tire, right?
Brian, you got through it. You got through it a 24 continuous hour live broadcast show, and you're going to do the 81 hours later in December. If you could do that, you can live without a cell phone, right?
I hope, brother.
Yeah. As I'm talking to you on one, so I was being a complete hypocrite here.
Well, I am technically. Well, all right. And then I'm looking down at one, right? So don't feel like I've totally been in it, but I wanted to be able, right? Okay. But just you got to watch me, because someone will say, I thought you gave up your phone. I'm just checking everyone here in the thread. So here's my disclaimer. During the live show, I'll have the phone close by, right? Little bit of truth in advertising, because I want to be able to say hello, see what everyone's up to. But other than that, no, I'm really, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, because what if someone needs to get a hold of me? They'll get a hold of me. There'll be some way. There's some pattern set up. So in any event, that's what I was waiting to share with you, was my big, not only my personal story, but saying to folks out there that not unlike, as Heather was saying, that she won't pick up the phone unless she has like a wired headset. And then you see these people running around, Lee, with these wireless. There's just two little like white earbuds. Mm. What are the magnets like in those? And then, one other thing. And then I promise I'll get off this. I'm going to start turning off the Wi-Fi at night. Right? Because think about it. Why do I need to lie around in bed with Wi-Fi signals ricocheting around my house? Now, I could be totally nuts. Here's the disclaimer, right? Maybe there's nothing wrong. Maybe you say, no, Wi-Fi is good for your brain, right? Maybe 20 years from now, no one will know. Brother Wallman, thank you for joining us this evening at All Natural Being. Nice to see you. So I'm just going to turn the Wi-Fi off. I'll get up in the morning, come down, turn it on, right? The phones will still work if there's an emergency. But no more Wi-Fi. And then I'm tickled to death to see what that's going to mean. So maybe folks listening, could turn off your Wi-Fi. Don't, please, hold. I'll post it up later if you haven't seen what a golf ball-sized brain tumor looks like. You don't want one. And most certainly, when you see these kids, I was at a place, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, where I heard a mom say to like a 4-year-old, "Oh, come on. I need your help now. You'll get the tablet as soon as we get to the car." And what are we doing to young brains, young minds? Heather's got a good point. Lee, she says free radicals is free radicals, right? Sure, there's philosophical free radicals, but there's also free radicals that we inhale, that we drink, that we eat. Mm-hmm. Free radicals bombarding us in terms of the Wi-Fi. Thank you, Heather. That was very smart. No pun intended. Although I'm sure with a name like Heather Smart, you've probably heard that joke before, but it's very witty, very brilliant, Heather. All right, Lee, so let's get to it. 833-462-3968, 833-GO-BU. Let me put up this cool little placard. Wayne, if you're watching still with us, thank you very much. Wayne created this little placard, and Lee, one for you as well. Sales Copy Academy and everything else. So a little placard that just puts up the number. Give us a call, 833-GO-BU, 833-462-3968. If you're listening, 2 days ago I unplugged the radio on my nightstand because I swear I can feel the radio waves. Kelly, let's talk about that, because I absolutely tend to believe that there could be something to that maybe we just haven't caught up enough to know. But for me, I'm done having what little bit of a brain I have left, right, Lee? I'm done having that. As Heather says, free radicals is free radicals, right? I'm done. And I know, Heather, I'm sorry. You'd think, right? But that just shows. Heather says, yeah, I know. I get it all the time. Heather Smart. Every time I see your name, I think of Maxwell Smart. You don't have a brother named Maxwell, do you? Remember that? Agent 99? I think that was his partner, Agent 99. I don't know what Max was, but... She says, and my cell phone and radio talk to each other. I hear it. What do you think of that, Lee? You think that's right? You think there could be some communication going on between these different electronic devices that maybe if we could pay attention? Wayne's watching. I always like it when I get these little eye emojis from Wayne, because he means, ooh. All right, I'm watching now. You better make sure you're running these cards right.
I'm a man of a limited skill set, so when we get into these kinds of conversations, I generally just smile and nod.
Well, and I don't believe that, too. Let's open the phone lines, 833-462-3968. Do you have a tagline? Heather says, haha, yes, and his shoe phone. I remember the shoe phone well. John says, I would turn my Wi-Fi off, but I'm mining cryptos. Well, there's a thought I didn't think of. Kelly says, no kidding. My radio makes a certain noise just seconds before a text comes in on my phone. Now, that I know is true. Mm-hmm. Has that ever happened to you, Lee? Where your radio will get like a weird little and then all of a sudden you'll hear the phone ring or a text go off?
Sure.
I know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, interference.
So is that interference good for our brains?
That's something I don't think we're going to find out for another 15, 20 years until we're dealing with it on epidemic levels.
Epidemic levels. I think you and Rita are absolutely correct. I think Kelly's correct and Heather as well. All right, Lee, so I'm sorry. I keep getting us sidetracked. But I am so excited. I'm so humbled to be able to contemplate this podcast with you called Copy That Speaks. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking, we've worked on this concept that tomorrow's future is being protected by today's coaches, right? Because when you look at artificial intelligence, you look at all the mechanization, all the downsizing or outsizing of human wherewithal. It's going to be people that can bring their own bold, that will never let themselves be owned. These entrepreneurs. Thank you, John. Agent 86, he says. These entrepreneurs, Lee, that are willing to stand, square their shoulders with whatever the fate of Chop Block is, and make it happen. And I think for those folks, you would have to say, wouldn't you, that coaches are the tip of the spear?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, coaches are about instruction, training, human connection, understanding, things that, machines, as many jobs as they take and as much as they contribute to the world for good or bad, cannot replace.
Well, I was thinking about it. I wrote some notes because I knew you would, that you and I would be talking about this. And I have that, I just put down that today's coaches are protecting tomorrow's future. Yours was a lot better. Today's coaches igniting tomorrow's potential. But basically what we're talking about is coaches marshaling the energies of the human mind. And if you look at education, as they say, you look at education today, a lot of bricks and mortars are being abandoned for street creds. How many jobs do you see now, Lee, where people say, college education is not required? So I think this thing about coaches and people that write smart copy, I think that they're going to be right. I think the universe truly backs people that are experts at self-expression. And I think that coaches, I think that people that write creative copy are the ones that stand in defense of the downsizing of human potency. What say you?
Well, listen, that expression is as old as recorded human history and even older. I mean, when our very distant ancestors were sitting around the fire roasting mammoth kebabs, they were telling stories.
They're tasty.
And the stories are that's that reflection.
Right.
And that's why stories have been so powerful from whatever we were before.
Sure.
We became modern humans. That storytelling is no less important today. And there are a lot of people in the marketing space that talk about storytelling.
Okay.
And how important it is to marketing. I mean, regardless of whether you are selling as a business or you are selling an idea. I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm just talking to some business owners here. I believe that everybody has a story to tell, and that story can change someone else's life, and a lot of someone else's life, just through that connection. So, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to sell something for money or whether you're just trying to create and sell change for somebody else to do good in the world. Your story is important and has the ability to make an impact. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to write effective copy that creates those relationships.
And I would say to you that those relationships, Lee, right, that's what I love about you in terms of the way when I watch you work, when I watch your mind go into action over a particular whatever it is that you're working on in that moment, that it's about your relationship with the alphabet. It's about your relationship with sentence structure. It's about your relationship with the ability to tell a story. Heather says over here in the thread, I feel so old school, old style alarm clock and no cell phones go to bed. Heather, I'm going to model your behavior, at least as far as the old style alarm clocks and no cell phones going to bed. It's a new rule. But so getting back to you, Lee, that's one of the things that I love about you is that you immerse yourself. You become a part of that story. And I thought about it a lot before I knew you were coming on today. You don't necessarily, you invite people to be a part of your story, the story that you're writing in that moment. You don't tell a story. You invite them to be ignited by the passion that you're creating in the moment. That is my sense, the difference between exclamation points and question marks in terms of punctuation. You invite people to be ignited. And that's what I love about your work.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
I feel that the magic really happens in the intersection of your story and their story.
Okay.
Being able to use your story to create those emotions and that awareness and, most of all, that sense of hope through what you're telling them, through the copy you're creating, through the relationships that you're building through that copy. That's where that intersection lies between your story and their story.
And Lee,
And
it wouldn't be, if I could interrupt for just a quick, Candace says, Lee, I thought it was so cool how you previously said kind work backwards, made me think.
Oh, right.
So when it comes to my belief that the future, where we're going to have to guard against mechanization, we're going to have to guard against downsizing and outsizing and all the ways. I saw something the other day, Lee, I think it's by 2025, which isn't that, right, like 7 years, 2025, a huge percentage of the workforce is going to be displaced by machines.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't you say that if you craft the ability, if you learn the skill of having like a Venn diagram almost, brother, right? Your story intersects with their story. Mm-hmm. In that sweet spot, you got the Venn diagram. Wouldn't you say that people versed in the Venn diagram of human potency and potential are going to be better off competing against the very machines that could be taking a huge chunk of our jobs in the very near future?
Absolutely. One of the things that we have been fantastic at various points in human history and pretty terrible at other points is adaptability and change. I mean, as we get into this world where it's inevitable that we have machines taking over a large part of what we used to count on for work.
Sure.
That we're helping people adapt because that creates new opportunities. We're creating new opportunities for coaches, and we're creating new opportunities for coaches to help other people because they're going to need help with things that weren't even things 20 years before, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And I would think that in terms of, as you say, the intersection between your story and their story, as you train people to be good at that. And that can be good. You know, we've talked before, Lee, about the concept of own your lens, right? When you're performing in front of a camera, but that camera could be one set of human eyes. You could be talking to a little kid. You could be talking to a coworker. You could be meeting with your boss to talk about a promotion. It doesn't have to be speaking in front of a camera. It doesn't have to be speaking in front of thousands of people in an audience. That isn't what we're talking about. You're talking about crafting communication, which is really what copy is. It's almost like when people say, "Oh, copy." It's a tangible thing, right? It's more of a noun than a verb. But you're talking about communicating. It's not a thing. It has a life of its own, I would say, or at least that's what I've learned from watching you.
To me, it does, definitely.
Okay. And that goes back to when you said the very beginning of time, whenever, we made the switch to Homo sapien, right? Sitting around a campfire, telling those stories. Well, I think it's going to inoculate some of us in the future from the downsizing that's coming. I can remember, Lee, working at CBS in Chicago when they got rid of a bunch of people, floor camera operators and the like, and replaced them by computers, robots, big moving machines with a camera and one guy with a joystick. I remember the day, Lee, where you could go to get in an airplane, say at O'Hare or here in Columbus or wherever you're flying, and you'd actually get to talk to a flight attendant. And here's my ID. Can I have my ticket? Now it's all kiosks. And you can't find a flight attendant to save your life. Right? Other than the one person going, "Oh, excuse me, could you please use that kiosk over there?" And I remember one time getting in the fight going, "No, I'm not going to use the kiosk." Sir, right? Which is always amazing to me. Whenever flight attendant, or anyone for that matter, wants to get your attention, they always go, "Well, sir, They're like, oh, yeah, that's going to cause me to sit up and pay more attention, calling me sir. Well, sir, the rules are you have to use the kiosk. And I said, okay. Moment they perfect these kiosks, who, by the way, don't need health insurance, days off, bonus pay, overtime. They don't need all those things. Once they perfect those kiosks, you're going to be working at a Pizza Hut, taking salad orders. And I think she was offended by it at the time. But when I given the opportunity to explain why I felt about it, if I remember correctly, she upgraded me to first class. So that's the moral of the story. I was pick a fight with a flight attendant, and she might upgrade you to first class just because she doesn't want to deal with you and coach. Maybe. I'm thinking. I don't know.
Life lessons with Brian.
Life lessons with Brian. So I want to get back to a little bit about your storytelling, though, and my belief that the universe really does back true self-expression. So, and I've told the story about you before with the apple cider vinegar, you climbing around on the shelf, getting all the way up top, looking in the back. So when you say it's an intersection between your story and their story, you really do envelop yourself in the story of that moment before you ever consider grabbing a pen or a recorder, a keyboard, before you ever consider writing any of it down. You really do immerse yourself in the story. And does that put you in the best frame of mind to be able to recognize another person's story that might dovetail with yours? Is that some of the legwork you have to do in order to be successful at it from the very beginning?
If you're in the coaching space or any sort of brandpreneur, to me, really, the artists, the writers, the healers, the teachers, I don't want you to think we're talking about selling cupcakes or whatever. I mean, you don't need to sell. You don't need to tell your story to sell a cupcake. They're pretty. They're pink. They have sprinkles.
Hey.
Me want cupcakes. Me eat cupcakes. No story involved, right? That's not what we're talking about here.
Oh, I don't know. There's a pretty crafty copy that goes into me down in a whole bag of peanut M&Ms.
Okay, well, there you go.
Melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Maybe it does. Maybe we could. I mean, it's every cupcake has a story. I don't know.
I guess so. Melts in your mouth, not in your hand, right? There you go. That's it. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Go ahead, brother.
So,
sorry to interrupt.
No. It is absolutely critical, and again, to find that intersection, obviously you have to understand their story, but you also have to be willing to share your story. And that's one of the things that I see a lot of people struggling with is exposing themselves to that vulnerability of being able to tell the parts of their story that aren't really so tidy. Because, I see it all the time of people that they want to look perfect because they want to be seen as the guru, that they've, maybe in the past I had a few problems, but I figured everything out, and now I'm this magnificent ivory tower person, and you need to come, throw your money at the
AKA, I am Spartacus.
That, yes.
What a dope.
But really, in a world of, and I think I said this last week, is that good copy creates, relationship. A relationship is a conversation. Bad copy is screaming at people from an ivory tower.
Okay.
That sort of thing. And that's just not, that doesn't create that connection. The vulnerability creates a connection, which is why I'm such a huge fan of doing journaling on your own.
Sure.
To be able to tap into those things. Because, let's face it, chances are if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're a teacher, an artist, whatever, then you are wanting to help other people because you have gone through some things.
Sure.
You've stood in front of the dirty diaper dumpster fires yourself, right? So, obviously that's your passion, and being able to authentically not only tap into their story, but show them how your story relates is a powerful, powerful thing. And that's what creates long-term fans. I forget who it is that talks about the 1,000 true fans. And as we progress as a society where more and more people are in that brandpreneur space, that really is all it takes. You don't need the entire world to approve or agree. You don't even need the vast majority of people to approve or agree.
Sure.
You have your tribe of people who are authentically your people. then that shields you against any sort of fluctuation that may happen in the economy or in life, really, because that's your. I hate to use the word bubble, but
sure.
that's your space.
Alex is here in the thread. Good evening, Alex. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. He puts in quotes, good copy creates a relationship. He says, I like that quote. So, Alex, I would absolutely agree. And I think it's the relationship, Lee, of, like you say, your story and their stories. So it's not high pressure writing where you're trying to pressure someone to take action. It's more looking for permission to melding your two stories. Totally different way of looking at it than a Glenn Ross, high pressure kind of, you know what I mean? Alex says it reminds him of what Seth is always talking about. Seth Godin, if you're familiar with Seth's work, reminds you of what Seth is always talking about. Absolutely, Alex. Thank you for that insight. 833-462-3968. We're in our closing. Thanks to the good folks. Speaking of Sales Copy Academy, we're in our closing 4.5 minutes now, if you want to give us a holler. So, Lee, what are some of the other ways that you use to prepare yourself? You talked last week about it, but I like this idea of relationship building. Can you give us another couple little tips or tricks, things that you use to put yourself in the mindset to understand another human being's mindset?
I love finding out what tertiary, perhaps unrelated things, unrelated to the problem that you're trying to help them fix. I love finding out those tertiary things and really diving into those. If you can, you say if you're in a Facebook group and you'd see a few of them talking about a particular song or a particular kind of music, to just okay, you can find literally anything on YouTube now, so there's no reason you can't hop over in 5 seconds.
Sure.
And, put that on and immerse that way. You see in the same vein, people talking about a particular book that they found powerful or insightful. Go read that book. Because you're going to get into their world just a little bit more and find places where that intersection exists.
I tell you, ever since you said that to me, I'm thinking a lot about it. When we talk about fibromyalgia, and you go, well, if you're going to write about it, then you write about, people that are in pain. And then I remember you said, well, how about all the things they don't get to do because of that pain? Right? They don't get a good night's sleep. They don't get to walk the dog. They don't get to play with the grandkids. They don't get to do this, 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 and this. So you had drilled down to the point where there were all kinds of things to think about that would, they're like tributaries. You call them tertiary, right? Just little fingers off of the main event that puts you in the perfect position to find that Venn diagram, to the perfect position to build that relationship. Would you say so?
Absolutely, because if they're reading something that you have written for them or listening to a video that you've scripted, and to use that fibromyalgia example, to use that example, if you could show them that you understand how hard it is to sweep a cat hairball off the floor.
Sure.
As something that most people would never even really think about.
Sure.
Or how difficult it is to keep your balance when you're stepping off the sidewalk when you're walking out into the parking lot and you're having to step down and how you're constantly is this the time I'm going to face plant?
Right. I know that.
I don't mean to make light of it. I don't mean to lay to the condition. You know me. I'm just
No. Listen, it's something I think about all the time.
If you say, look, I get that. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Then that creates that OMG, you get me.
Right.
At that point, there doesn't really need to be a sales conversation. It's more just here, take my money, or
whatever it's going to be.
I accept your help.
Accept your help, and maybe that's a good way of putting it, because as I think, when I think of some of the things that I've learned from you and some of the things that I've learned from Sales Copy Academy, well, I use it with 5-year-olds. I use it with 18-year-olds. I use it with 30, 40, 50-year-olds, because it's about, and I hate to sound so trite, right? So corny about it, but communication really is communing right? And I think you caused me to think a lot about, if I go to France and I don't know how to speak French, not going to be a lot of communication going on, right? I don't know how to speak French. I don't know how to do it. But that's what you've helped me to see in terms of writing some of the, notes to people, thank you cards, this and that and everything else. You've helped me see that it really is a communing. And as I said earlier, a Venn diagram where your story and their story meets. All right, Lee, I'm going to let you go because I promised I'd only hold you to the top of the hour. Don't forget salescopyacademy.com. That's Lee's logo up there right now. Of course, All Natural Being, proud to be teaming with my good friend Lee and the good folks at Sales Copy Academy. Oh, did you get a chance to look at your computer? Hold on, I'll put it back up. Wayne did this. Yeah, let me just show you.
Well, I'm running about 15 seconds behind.
No, so am I, brother. Don't worry about that.
I was like, that's Wayne's work there.
Yeah, that's
sweet. I like it.
Well, you recognize the background graphic, I think.
Sure.
Right? It's a team event, right? So you recognize that. I think the first time I ever saw that was from you. It's something you did. So then we just said, oh, this would be a nice little thing, and it'd be able to show people salescopyacademy.com.
That's very nice.
Okay, cool. Now you can see it. Very cool. All right, brother, we're going to let you run. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us this evening. And we'll get, if you could put in the thread, if you don't mind, salescopyacademy.com so people can know how to get to it. Heather, you have a wonderful night as well. Everyone that joined us this evening, thank you so very much for hanging out here at All Natural Being. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning. Bring your own bold. And I think we're going to expand a little more on this concept of never be owned. Don't let anyone do it to you. Don't let yourself do it to you. Never be owned. Lee, final thoughts before we jump?
Wow. We covered a lot of territory here.
We did, didn't we? That's what I love talking to you. I have a notepad. You can't see it because it's a 15-second delay, but I got like a notepad, right? Right. Like, okay, let me write that down. So thank you very much for joining us. Sales Copy Academy posted over in the thread. Thank you very much. Final thoughts before we bail.
Just happy to be able to communicate with such a great group of people, and thanks, appreciate you all listening to me yammer for a half hour. So I'm looking forward to being back next week. And there's some of these copy things you want to send them in. I'm not that brutal. Well, am I?
No, I don't think you're that brutal. Yeah. Bubba pissed you off, and he's still here in the studio. So, but no, I don't think you're brutal. All right. John says, thanks again, Lee and Brian. Great show. John, thank you so very much. And as always, for all your support. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Don't forget, Lee says he'll be back next Wednesday. You heard it here first. He's going to be here for another rendition of Lee Words Wednesdays. So if you're thinking, maybe you're like, oh, I don't know, but maybe I know someone, a significant other, a brother, a sister, spouse, whoever, that's like, oh, I could use some help from one of the sharpest copy minds in the world, then I would say, remind them about next Wednesday. And then, of course, next Wednesday, Lee, let's get into Copy That Speaks, the podcast. Maybe we should see, Lee, if we can endeavor to get another coach on and talk a little bit about the whole process. Maybe we can shoot to do that next Wednesday.
Sounds fantastic.
All right, brother. Thank you so very much for calling, hanging out with us for the hour. Everyone here in the thread, thank you so very much for being with us at All Natural Being. We are going to go ahead and get out of here. Have an absolutely fantastic evening. Remember, don't be owned.
IPMNation.com.